All right, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a custom class to store data that makes sense to group it together, right? So we come in Monday morning, we look up on the board and we see an objective assigned to us, a task assigned to us, and we're like, oh man, I wanted to watch YouTube videos all morning, but now I have to do this. And let's take a look. Let's see what we got. It says create a custom class so you can use it to store US population data by town. Okay. And then it says each town's data needs to be stored in its own object. Well, that makes sense. You would have done that anyway because you're a Java programmer, you know that. And then it says data supplied to you consists of a string of 3 values delimited by a comma and a space. And they always tell you this, and then it's not quite right, but that's all right. You can work around that. But let's assume it is. Let's assume it's going to be, everything's going to be exactly the way it's supposed to be. I'm going to Control-C this because I want this for my test string, the little test string. Abbeville City, Alabama. It's the top one in the US Census Data. That's why I picked it. All right, so string, and I'm going to call this test string. Speech quotes, paste, semicolon. All right, so there's my city, there's my state, there's my population. Got all my data that I need. Now I just got to get it into the form that I want it. So they keep saying here what they call by town. So I think I'm going to call my data object, my data class, it's going to create data objects, town. I'm going to go here into my package. I'm going to right click, new class. And I'm going to keep it in the same package. I'm going to call it town. Capital T, you always want your classes with a capital letter. And no public static void, just do it like that. All right, now we have a town class. Let's make some fields. So fields and member data, member variables are the same thing, right? So you need to know both terms. Member variables mean they're variables that are members of the class that can be seen anywhere in the class. And they also use the term fields. So they're always private. So you don't want to be able to access the actual variable directly. That falls under encapsulation for object-oriented programming. You want to wrap the data and only have known places where you can access that data. And if you're just able to access the variable directly, that's no good. So we have a string, and I'm going to call it city, right? I'm going to make another one, string, and that one's state, and int for population. All right, ooh, and we've got to make it private. Got to make it private. Private, there we go. Now we can't get the data, we can't set the data. What are we gonna do? Let's use a constructor. We know constructors are used to initialize objects when they're created. So go to source. This is really cool. Eclipse has this. I'm pretty sure NetBeans and all the other ones do too. Let's go to constructor using fields. See, that's why I have to know that term fields. Right, there we go, fields. Those are our fields. City, state, population. Also, member variables. Okay, generate. Alrighty, now when we create an object using this constructor, we can initialize the city, state, and population. All right, but we still can't get the data, right? We can't get the data back, and we really should be able to do that. We should probably be able to get and set the data. Like maybe they want to populate state at some later time. All right, so let's do that. Let's create something called getters and setters. Right? Now you can choose whether you want both getters or setters. I'm going to pick everything. Right? Getters and setters. Now these are public. So this is a known place where you can get data. You can get city from here. It's public, and it's going to return city. That field, we could see it everywhere in the object. We could set it too, right? But we have to use the set city. Cool. All right, we want to print out our data too. So I'm going to add one more thing. I'm going to go down here. If we want to print something out, we need something called a toString method. It'll basically take all of our data in our class, or whatever data we want in our class, and print it out to the screen. It'll make it into a string. It won't print it out into to the screen. It'll make it into a string, and then we can print it out into the screen. So let's go to source. And it's so popular, it actually has a generate toString. Sweet. And we're going to use the fields. We don't worry about the methods. Boom, there we go. And it gave us a nicely formatted string that we can return if somebody calls toString. Cool. Okay, let's go back to our application. Let's split that test string up into city, state, and population. How do we do that? Well, let's declare a string array. And I'm going to call this test array. I'm going to get my test string. Look at that split. I bet that's exactly what we need. And regex, or regex, is regular expression. It means what pattern are we searching on? Well, comma, space, right? That's the pattern we know that we're going to use for the split. So now we're going to have three values. We're going to have the town or the city. We're going to have the state. We're going to have the population. But they're all strings. Remember, they're all strings. We made a string array. So when we go to get those strings, say city, we can do test array, square bracket, 0. That's the first element. Remember, we start with 0. That's our city. String, and we have a state. Test array 1. That's the next one. Whoops, how did I get that little thing in there? There we go, square brackets. And now we need an int for population. I'm just going to call it pop. If I do this, that's no good, right? Not like that, it isn't, because it's a string, and we want an int. So we have this really cool helper function, or a helper function in our integer class. So we have this integer class that has cool functions like parse int. Sweet. So parse int will parse the integer if it is in fact an integer. You'll get a number format exception if it's not. All right, now let's make our town. Right, that was what we're supposed to do. So we'll call this town. I say new, and this is my constructor. So my constructor can take three values. It can take a city, it can take a state, and it can take a population. Cool, no errors yet. Let's go ahead and print it out. So I do that sysout, control space, boom, town. And since this is in a print statement, the toString is going to be called by default. All right, it's going to be like, oh, I need to print that. I wonder if there's a toString method. It'll look for the toString method. If it's there, it'll print it out. Just the way we formatted it in the toString method. Here we go. Sweet. And we got it. We are done. We can watch YouTube videos and goof around, but you got to be cool. You can't let the boss see you. And I will see you in the next video. Look at that, under almost under 8 minutes, except I was babbling. All right, I will see you in the next video.